And now, down the information highway comes a pioneer of the wired-up world. It was he who first proved, by going around it in 80 days, that the world was round like an orange. Then, not content with proving it was round like an orange, he went around it from top to bottom and proved it was shaped like a kiwi fruit. Next, he intends to go straight through it with a Black & Decker drill and prove it's shaped like a donut. But why should other performers be envious just because every program he makes is a worldwide smash hit and every book a bestseller? And then again, why not? Let's make that the first question I don't ask Michael Palin.
Setting up for a fall.
Did you feel for that old Spanish man?
Well, as I get older, yes, Clive, I did. I thought that's the way I'm going to end up. But actually, I thought an interesting phenomenon watching it was that the very beginning of the show, when he sort of appeared to have been wrenched off an intensive care unit, he still had the sort of saline drips and stuff hanging from his body. And by the end, by the time they battered him into submission and dangled him in concrete and all that, he was looking a lot better. I mean, the guy really cheered up by the end. I think it's a whole new concept in care of the elderly.
He seemed very restrained in the presence of the last girl, the seductress, didn't he?
Suspiciously restrained, Clive. I noticed that. I think it proved. I think he was gay. And it's simple as that. I think if that had been an archbishop on his knee, it might have been a whole different story.
Could you yourself dream up games like that?
I do dream up games like that, but I certainly wouldn't put them on television. We did a nice, on Monty Python, I'm sorry to lapse into this old sort of rambling anecdotage, but we did do a game I rather enjoyed, which was called International Hide and Seek, in which people would count up to about 4,500, and the hider was allowed to go anywhere in the world. So, you know, you could go off to Uruguay or Hong Kong or something like that. I think that, on a global scale, is sort of something that could be done.
Were you a keen sportsman at school?
Well, I was keen, but I wasn't terribly good. Sport at school was designed as a punishment, really. I mean, we only ran when it started to rain. And games, I mean, prowess and technical skill were sort of beaten out of you. But I remember I played football, and I used to move in space. I was very good at that, you know, so moving into space where the ball wasn't, and no defenders were, or anything like that. You move around, and you shout at other people a lot. Get over there, over there, oh, over there. You know, and you yourself wander gently towards the touchline, and very often over the touchline, and I'll have a quick cigarette, back on for the second half. I tried to avoid getting hurt, but it was such a, I mean, the way we were taught football at school was such a shambles, and the football pitch at my prep school was really on a 90-degree slope. Absolutely hopeless. And the headmaster would get up there, he'd blow up the ball to start with, that sort of thing. OK, boys, all right. And the ball would immediately go bouncing off down this hill. Fetch the ball, boy, fetch that ball. And so younger, smaller, weaker boys would be sent off down the cliff to find the ball, which, of course, many of them never returned. So I settled for dancing lessons, where that was the other thing I was, you know, asked to do.
And you did it? You chose dancing as a sport?
That was the most traumatic sort of... It certainly wasn't a sport the way I did it. It was the most traumatic period of my life because, I mean, the trouble is you're taught dancing. I was in the English middle class where you're taught dancing at a time when all sorts of other things are happening to you. It's the wrong time of life.
You mean?
It's puberty, you know, your body's changing, you know, black one day, white the next. Little thing, you know, hair's growing, other things aren't. You know, it's just a mass of insecurities, and I found it very, very difficult to talk to a woman, let alone touch a woman, you know, because one just didn't know. You sort of, hello. Terrible fear they'd say hello back. So actually being sent to dancing class, where not only you had to sort of, not only talk to a girl, but actually hold them very close to you, which that, you know, that when things are happening to your body is a dangerous thing to do. Hold them very close to you and then be told how to move your feet around in a very strange way. I mean, it was just too much happening at the same time.
It made you the gentleman you are today, this kind of training, except I noticed you were accused of cheating at conkers on the Isle of Wight recently.
Clive, I wish you wouldn't bring that up. What happened, all that happened was that there was a conker championship taking place, and my conkers were entered, and they had been...
Yes.
The story did end up on page 3 of The Sun, actually. I always thought you had to have something rather larger to appear on page 3 of The Sun with. But no, they'd been soaked in vinegar, which I thought was what one did in these sort of things. It's jolly painful. I'd use an aftershave if I were you.
What does the vinegar soaked conker do? It makes it harder.
It makes it hard and wrinkled and aged and sour and bitter, but it's no good, Clive, unless you can hit the other conker with yours. And
you hit the other guy's conker with your vinegar-soaked conker?
Yeah, you go for his conker, and I unerringly missed it. My hand-eye coordination just isn't good, and he was holding his conker, which was larger than mine. They held it on the end of a sort of bootlace, and his was larger, and it was more wrinkled, and I would have seen that quite clearly had been doctored in some way. So I think I was rather unfortunately treated.
Do you think they'll be watching this show all over the world? Do you think people in other parts of the world have any idea what the British are talking about when they talk about going for each other's conkers? And
I'm sure they have a very good idea of what the British are. They're British again. That's a British vice, you know? All that public school education. They go for the conkers together.
Would you fancy a sister like LaToya, if I could put it that way?
Fancy is not really the word, but she wouldn't be my first choice. But I find it very extraordinary looking at her. It is like a sort of identikit photo. It's like her head on Meatloaf's body, you know, sort of the jacket and everything. It was really kind of strange look, really.
I think she comes over as the most normal of the bunch, doesn't she?
Yeah, she was straight down the line. Although I thought he at least showed a streak of normality when he revealed that... I mean, she revealed that he had a brain in his bathroom. I was glad to hear that. I mean, otherwise I thought this guy is weird, but when I heard he had the brain in the room, I thought, well, that's good, you know, and I hope he's got the brain in every room, as you probably do.
It's quite obvious that Michael would like to change places with LaToya. Is there someone you'd like to be transformed into? Yes, I wouldn't mind. I transformed into Michelle Pfeiffer or something like that. No, I wouldn't. No, I'd have to have the crossbar taken off my bicycle. It'd cost very complicated. No, forget that. What about?
I wanted to be. I always wanted to be Marlon Brando. I mean, he was my hero. There was just something about his attitude to life in those early Brando films, you know? He was sour and mean, would ride a bicycle, a motorbike at 200 miles an hour to people's back gardens and was paid for it, and used to sort of destroy places. You know, those people in movies who could destroy a room, smash a place up, crash, throw things about, and then get hit, and blood would come out and all. I loved all that sort of thing. I thought that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to be paid to pretend to live dangerously.
Did his early films affect your style of speech? Or, they did mine, you know. I sort of became him for a while. Just wasn't very successful.
I wonder where the Aussie accent came from. The wild ones, you know. Yeah, I was, after seeing Brando, I didn't want to speak. That was the great thing. You didn't have to speak, and you went home on the bus, you know. Bus driver said, "Where are you going?" You just hand the sixpence over. Keep the change. I don't want to keep, that's not enough. You give me enough. You'll be in your Marlon Brando again, are you? Don't fool me, eh? On your bike, mate.